We are shown an event where many people perished due to some war, and only one guy named Ronan survived. Then suddenly, the giant monster he was standing on praised him for his strength despite being a human. This annoys Ronan, and he questions why it's still alive. This monster is called Giant Ahayut, who appeared in the Empire 20 days ago and wreaked havoc for an unknown reason. There were 2 more giants, but they perished, leaving only him. Ronan then continues and asks Ahayut why he is still alive, as his friends who have died before him are waiting. This confuses Ahayut, so he asks what friend Ronan is talking about, to which he explains that he is talking about the other 2 giants who came with him. One got burned to death by the hot-tempered red dragon, while the other was sealed for eternity by an old man called Lorahan. Ahayut tells him not to conceal the truth with his shallow words, as the children of the stars can share their senses with one another. Through that, he knows that those who challenged the other giants died in the process as well, meaning that strong people like him no longer exist in this world. Ronan informs Ahayut that he is mistaken, as he himself is still alive, to which Ahayut replies that he knows Ronan's time is also reaching its end. If he had realized his skills earlier and put everything into training, he would have become a significant obstacle to their long-cherished wishes. But still, he is a great human being and should be proud. However, in the end, his world will soon be engulfed by starlight and disappear. Unable to continue hearing Ahayut's nonsense, Ronan ends his life by beheading him. Later, as he wanders around the bloody battlefield, he reminisces about the time he joined the army and didn't know anyone, resulting in him becoming an outcast. But one day, he was approached by a guy who befriended him. With this new friend, he started to get along with the other soldiers as well. Now the same friend's lifeless body is lying on the ground, along with the other soldiers. All Ronan could do is question the guy about what kind of pride made him fight until he died instead of running away. He also wonders why the giants, who could deflect the Empire's strongest swordsman's aura, were only affected by his sword. As if it weren't for that, there would be no way a disciplinary soldier would stand on the front line, and these guys wouldn't have died first. Then suddenly he heard a voice asking if anyone is alive. Ronan quickly recognizes the voice and follows it to come across a woman he addresses as Captain Adishan. He is happy that she survived, but notices that she is missing an arm. So he jokingly asks how, as a commander, she could have lost her arm. She also jokingly replies that, as a corporal soldier, he isn't doing well himself. She then asks if Ahayut is dead. Ronan affirms, informing her that he has eliminated Ahayut and his body isn't too far away. Hearing this, she felt relieved and shed some tears of joy while thanking Ronan. Then Ronan tells her that if she is that grateful, can she complete one of his requests, which is the cleanup of the disciplinary soldiers whose bodies are abandoned or buried as per regulation. But could she make sure to treat them well this time? She replies that he should be the one to personally look after them, as he is more lively. And as he was about to say something, he started coughing blood and informs her that he could die at any moment. Adishan asks, if he were to survive, is there something he would want to do? Ronan says that although he has a lot of things he wants to do, the only thing he can think of right now is to attend the academy, as it was his late sister's wish to send him there. But soon, he would reunite with her. Adishan tells him not to give up, as when the rain stops, the search party will rescue them. But Ronan tells her to stop saying these useless things, as it's too late. Then suddenly, the sky clears out, and the rain stops, which shocks both of them. Then the ground also starts to shake, and as Ronan looks up, he sees an entity with 8 wings. Not only that, but there are also countless numbers of winged giants similar to Ahayut. Adishan is devastated seeing this scenario, as 3 giants weren't the end of it, and in the end, she couldn't save this world a 3rd time, leaving only the last chance left. As she was losing her mind, wondering what to do, Ronan yells out to her and tells her to hurry up and use her telekinesis magic to launch him upwards, as his sword can't reach them from the ground. Adishan asks if he will still fight in this situation, to which he replies affirmatively, saying that he can't die while doing nothing, and even if he were to die, he plans on taking down as many of them as possible. Seeing how he is not giving up in this situation, and considering that humans were able to get this far because of him, she decides to choose him. Then she calls out to Ronan, and as he turns around, she kisses him while putting something in his mouth. She then tells him something that he can't understand for some reason, and as he questions what she's on about, she tells him that if they were to meet again, Can he tell her to stop doing anything stupid like this, and instead become a tailor? While they were conversing, the giants were preparing to attack, and as they launched the attack, it caused a huge explosion, resulting in both of them dying. Then suddenly, Ronan opens his eyes and calls out to Adishan. However, she wasn't present, and he wasn't on the battlefield. Instead, he was in a place that he recognized as his hometown, Nimberton, which made him realize that he had gone back in time. Later, Ronan recalls Adishan's words and realizes that they were true. Earlier, when she put something in his mouth, she informs him that what he had just swallowed is an orb that turns back time. Using it, she, who was once a mere tailor, climbed to the position of Grand Commander. Although the orb allows a total of 4 time reversals, she has already used it 3 times. So she decides to pass the last chance to him, believing that the key to preventing the end of the world is the ominous power that allows him to slay the giant. She suggested that he train hard and sharpen his abilities, and in order to do that, he should attend the Philian Academy, where many outstanding individuals gathers. Back in the present day, Ronan is confused about whether it's a dream or not. If it's not a dream and he really came back in time, what is he supposed to do by himself? While he was contemplating the situation, he quickly realizes that if he really came back in time, he might be able to meet his deceased sister. Later, as Ronan heads home, he notices a group of people bullying a guy by hanging him upside down in the trees, but the guy isn't hanged by a rope. Instead, magic is used, which shocks him because such a valuable ability is rare, even in the battlefield. So, how could there be one in this countryside? Meanwhile, the pink-haired girl who was using magic to hang the guy wonders how long they will continue this, as something bad might happen. The guy begs them to stop, as he doesn't have any more money due to his mother's expensive medicine. However, the bully named Hans doesn't care about the guy's mother's health and starts to violently beat him. He then calls out to the pink-haired girl named Asel and tells her to lift the guy to the top of the tree. Asel refuses, fearing that she might make a mistake and cause the guy to fall. Hans then threatens her, saying they will hang her with the guy if she doesn't comply. This situation makes Asel wonder if it was wrong to learn magic, as she just wanted to show that she was good at something too. She decides to tell them to stop, but is too scared to do so. Then suddenly, Ronan hits Asel with a tree branch, telling her to stop, as the guy will die at this rate. This causes the magic to wear off, and the guy falls. This made Hans angry, so he rushes at Asel, questioning why she stopped, to which she replies that she didn't stop on purpose. Ronan then approaches Asel, telling her to ignore the trash and questions about where she learned the telekinesis magic. Asel informs Ronan that she learned telekinesis magic from a grimoire that she bought from a peddler. This surprised Ronan, as Asel had become this skilled with a cheap grimoire, and while he thinks of a way to catch up with the giants quickly, he hears the sound of a sword unsheathing, and as he looks behind, he sees that Hans has taken out a sword and is angry at Ronan for ignoring him. Then he rushes to attack Ronan, who easily dodges his attack with the help of his battle sense that he learned during his time in the disciplinary soldiers. Hans believed that Ronan had simply gotten lucky, so he demanded that Ronan kneel and beg for forgiveness, saying that he might spare his life, or he'll go after Ronan's sister. As Hans was about to say something vulgar about his sister, Ronan snapped and attacked Hans with the tree branch that cut off his ear. While Hans screams in pain for losing an ear, his friends are shocked to see someone cut an ear with a tree branch. Ronan then calls out to them, telling them to leave together with Hans, or they'll end up like him. And before leaving, they must leave behind the money they had stolen, to which they agreed, and left quietly. Later, Ronan gives the money back to the guy who asked why he gave him all this money, as it's more than what Hans had stolen from him. Ronan replies that the sword is all he needs, and he should not worry about them getting back at him, as after today, they will never do it again. Relieved, the guy thanks Ronan, which he accepts, and as he's about to head home, Asel calls out to them. She apologizes for her actions, saying that despite being threatened, she should have never done something like this, but she was too scared to refuse them. The guy replies that Asel was also crying when Hans dragged her here, which made him realize they were in the same situation, so it wasn't her fault, but he still appreciates her apology. Later, the guy leaves, leaving Ronan and Asel alone. Realizing that she could be helpful, Ronan tells her that he has some business with her, so they will meet again in 4 days. Asel questions what he means, and Ronan unsheathes the sword. saying that if she doesn't show up, she'll face consequences. This scares Asel, and she agrees to meet him 4 days later. Later, he arrives in front of his house with the flowers that his sister likes, but he doesn't have the courage to go inside. Suddenly, hearing his footsteps, his sister opens the door and calls out to him. During his time as a disciplinary soldier, Ronan had thought thousands of times about what he would say if he were to meet his sister again. Should he have said sorry for leaving without a word, or that he missed her? He had thought about it often, but these were things only past Ronan could say. All he can say now is that he has returned. Later, his sister Iril is happy that she gets to see the day when she'd receive flowers from her usually cold brother. Ronan then inquires about her age, saying that he had forgotten it, to which she replies that she is 22 years old, which means there are 10 years left before the giants invade the world. Suddenly, his sister places her hand on his forehead to check if he has a fever, as he is acting unusually. Seeing this, Ronan thinks that she is exactly as he remembers her to be, bright, kind, and warm, which makes him want this moment to last forever. However, in about 10 years, he needs to protect this world and save his sister, so he has to leave. He then informs her that he will be attending the academy, which makes her really happy, as she had told him many times to attend, but he wouldn't listen. She then goes to her room and returns with a pot full of gold coins that she has been saving in secret to surprise him. Although he is happy that she did so much for him, he informs her that this won't be enough. She insists that although she doesn't know which academy he is planning to attend, it's more than enough. Ronan then informs her that he is planning to attend the Imperial Filian Academy, which shocks her immensely, as it's the Empire's best leading educational institution, with the continent's most outstanding people as professors, combined with the imperial family's substantial funding. This is a place that gives the finest education in the world, prestigious enough to be called a factory of heroes. In his past life, the academy produced great talents such as Grand Commander Adishan, Swordmaster Shulafen, and the worst criminal, the Winter Witch. They were quite useful in the war against the giants as well, to the point that he understands why Grand Commander Adishan suggested that he attend the academy. Although he knows that it has high standards, he never expected to see his sister's nervous reaction as she tries to cheer him up. Later, he arrives at the meeting area and notices that Asel is already present, which surprises him, as he didn't expect her to actually show up. Asel replies that it was him who said that he wouldn't leave her alone if she didn't show up. He then tells her to forget about the past, as they'll be very busy tonight, and there's something he wants to try out. Asel asks what it is, to which Ronan replies that she just have to use her telekinesis magic on him and lift him as high as she can. This shocks Asel, who asks why he would do such a dangerous thing. Ronan replies that it's not that dangerous, and he won't die from it, so she doesn't have to be scared. Although Asel is reluctant, she agrees to Ronan's request and starts using her telekinesis ability named Invisible Hand, which surrounds a blue aura around Ronan, lifting him really high up, which is better than he had expected, and even though it's still lacking in height and stability. This feeling is similar to back when he fought a Hayyut. During that fight, what allowed him to fight on equal footing with a Hayyut was telekinesis, a rare ability among mages, who are rare themselves. This means that Asel will become the most important asset for the battle against a Hayyut, which makes him happy, as it's a good start after regression. Asel then informs Ronan that it's getting difficult for her, so he has to come down, but Ronan tells her to hold it a little longer, as he wants to try something out. He then unsheathes his sword and slashes it through Asel's mana, resulting in cutting through it and wearing off the telekinesis magic. This surprises Asel, who questions how he did that. Ronan replies that it's an acrobatic movement that he can naturally perform. As Asel tries to inquire further, Ronan gave her a little smack on the head, saying that he doesn't know himself how he can do that, as finding out what this ability is also a part of his mission, as it was able to cut down the giants. He then informs Asel that she has passed the test and throws his bag at her, telling her to follow him before the moon disappears, as there's something they need to do. Later, Asel asks if they are really planning on going to the Filian Academy, where the Empire's elite students attend. Ronan replies affirmatively and asks if she doesn't want to go. Asel replies that she wants to, but she is different from Ronan, who is talented in martial arts, while she is cowardly and timid. Ronan asks if she wants to continue living like that, as she is wasting her innate talent by humoring punks. And what she said about being cowardly and timid is also true, but she is also a crybaby who cries at anything, and a loser who is scared of everything. But that's fine because she can change from now on. However, the time that passes now can't be changed, and one day she'll come to regret it, just like how he did in his past life. This touches Asel's heart, as she thinks that Ronan is worried about someone like her this much. Before she can reply, Ronan says that he won't force her since it's her life, so she can go back if she wants. Hurriedly, Asel replies that she is willing to change and attend the Filion Academy with him, so he can teach her what she needs to do. Ronan praises her, as it's the first time she is acting brave, so he tells her to follow him, which she happily complies with. This outcome makes Ronan happy, as it's exactly as he had planned. Later, they arrive in the Lunar Goblin's territory, a type of goblin that commonly appears in this area, and people differentiate them by their yellow skin and disfigured bodies. But the true unique trait of lunar goblins is their greed for gold and other treasures. So they like to ambush merchants to steal treasure and gather all their stolen goods in one area to hold a festival. That festival is held on the night of the full moon, which is today. Asel quickly realizes Ronan's intention and asks if what she suspects is true, to which he replies affirmatively, saying that they are going to steal all the treasure today. Asel then says that she had never heard of such things. So how does Ronan know that? To which he dodges her questions, not wanting to answer that he learned it in his past life while wandering. He then places his arm around Asel's shoulder and instructs her to just use her telekinesis ability to move all the treasure while the goblins are sleeping. Asel says that it won't be easy, and what if she were to make a mistake? To which Ronan replies that it would be very bad if they were to get caught. This scares Asel, and she suggests that they think it over, but he refuses and informs her that in order to attend the Filion Academy, they need two things. First is money to afford their insane tuition fee, and the second one is real experience. Although money is a problem, experience is more important, as Filion is full of aristocrats who received elite training from birth. In order to win against them, there's only one option, which is to gain real experience by risking their lives, and these goblins are perfect opponents as they'll gain both money and experience. He then asks Asel if she had any better ideas, to which she replies that she doesn't, meaning that this is their only option. So Ronan tells her to get started right away. Later, Asel almost collected all of the treasure using her telekinesis magic, and as the last bag is filled, Ronan praises her, saying he knew that Asel could pull it off. Although he says that, he wasn't too confident himself as he didn't expect her to get used to this so quickly, which means she is better than he had thought, and he had found a really good minion. He then tells her to prepare to leave, as it's better to leave before anything goes wrong. Meanwhile, two guys were chasing after a bird near where Ronan and Asel were hiding. While Ronan wonders what kind of psychos are causing all that ruckus in the middle of the night, one of the goblins wakes up to the commotion and notices that their treasure box is empty. So, it wakes up the other goblins, and as they discuss who could have stolen their treasure, they notice Ronan and Asel. So they rush to attack them, which made Asel terrified while Ronan prepares to fight. She then suggests that they throw the bags and run, but Ronan refuses, as they won't be able to pay the tuition fee at the academy. Ronan then inspects his sword and realizes that it is made from cheap material, and with this weight and hardness, it'll withstand maybe 15 attacks, and there are about 30 goblins, so it'll be enough. As the goblins draw near, he swiftly unsheathes his sword and easily slays 3 goblins at once, with 27 more to go. Later, as he eliminates the last goblin, Asel wonders what she had just witnessed, as Ronan easily beheads 3 goblins in one strike head-on. As the other goblins rush to attack, Ronan simply disappears while eliminating the goblins and appears before the last goblin. Ronan then asks if she would continue to space out like this, to which she apologizes, but Ronan tells her not to. Instead, he tells her to pack up their things as it's time to return home. Later, when they were heading home, Ronan feels tired, while Asel feels tired from carrying a heavy bag. He wonders whether the reason his muscles are sore just from fighting some goblins is because he is still growing. So he decides to go through hard physical training when he gets home. Asel then asks Ronan about the commotion that had happened earlier, to which he replies that he doesn't know either. But he plans to make sure that they pay for making things difficult for him. Just then, someone shoots an arrow at Asel, which Ronan barely manages to catch. This terrifies Asel, and she questions where the arrow came from. Ronan then looks in the direction from which the arrow was shot and questions the two guys who they are. One of the guys pretends to have mistakenly attacked them, saying that something was rustling in the distance, so they thought it was a monster. Although they act apologetic, they were clearly staring at Ronan's bag full of gold coins. So he tells them to quit their nonsense and reveal who they truly are. Then one of the guys starts to approach Ronan while introducing himself, but quickly takes out a dagger and rushes to attack while calling themselves Caliboro. Ronan easily blocks the attack by grabbing the guy's hand and punches him in the chin. Then the other guy rushes to attack as well, but Acel notices him, so she uses her telekinesis magic to stop him. After praising Acel, Ronan takes the dagger from the guy's hand and uses many quick slashes to cut the guy into pieces, which shocks Acel, and she asks if the guy is dead, to which he replies affirmatively, saying why would he let a person who tries to harm him live? They are also from Caliboro, a group that does every crime possible, making them the Empire's most evil group. If it wasn't for him, her organs would have been harvested, and she would have been buried secretly. So knowing what they do and letting them live is a crime. Then suddenly one of the guy's bags started to levitate and move, which shocked both of them. As Ronan tries to open the bag, Acel asks if it's a poached animal, to which he replies that it might be possible. Then suddenly something swiftly got out of the bag, which turned out to be a bluebird. Acel was amazed to see the bluebird, as it is her first time seeing one. Ronan then notices a shackle around the bird's leg, which he quickly identifies as Caliboro's poaching shackle. It disturbs the prisoner's mana and restricts their movement, and they only use it in rare cases or when they're catching fantastical creatures, meaning that this bluebird might be one of them. Then suddenly the bird starts to speak, which scares Acel. Ronan then informs her that it's communication magic. He speculates that the bag has a function that blocks mana, as the bird was able to talk the moment it got out of it. He then questions if the person who is talking is the bird's owner, to which a person far away in a library of sorts answers affirmatively. He introduces himself as Varen, who is currently researching fantastical beasts at the Research Institute, and he is also the bluebird named Marpus's owner. Earlier, no matter how many times he tried to communicate, it didn't work. So he was about to make a report, but is relieved that it's safe. He then inquires about their identity, to which Ronan replies that they were just passers-by who got into a fight with poachers who kidnapped the bird. Ronan decided to stop the explanation there, as the memory after that is filled with too much bloodshed to explain. So he ends by saying that he saved the bird. Hearing about the poachers, Varen was shocked and says that he had speculated that this might happen, so he is hugely indebted to them and asks how he can repay them. Acel informs him that he doesn't need to repay them, but how will the bird return, as it seems like it's really exhausted from being chained up. Ronan then asks if it will be able to fly if he were to take off the shackles, to which Varen replies that it will be able to, as it's a dream bird that has a great homing instinct. Ronan then unsheathes his sword and slashes at the shackles, causing the shackle to be shattered into pieces. He then tells the bird to go back to its owner and stop making him worry. This touches the bird's heart, so it turns around, which annoys Ronan as why the bird is shoving its rear end in his face. Then Varen informs him that it's telling him to pluck a feather out before it flies away, as it seems like the bird wants to meet him again. And it has a trait where the feather will direct the main body to it like a compass, so when Ronan comes to the institution later, he can visit him. As Ronan plucks a feather, the bird swiftly flies away, which surprises even Ronan. Then Acel asks what's in his hand, to which he replies that he also doesn't know, but it stinks. A few days later, they arrive at a place and come across the owner of the Carabel mercenary, Duan Carabel. So, Ronan decides to sell the loot he got from Caliboro, and after selling all the items, Ronan is happy, as the other merchants he met earlier were all scammers who tried to pay him less. Duan then asks if there's anything else he would like to appraise. Ronan then takes out an egg-shaped thing from his pocket and says that he is not going to sell it, but is just curious to know what it is. A few days ago, when he met the bluebird, it left behind this egg-shaped thing. So at first he thought it was poop, so he threw it against a boulder, but the boulder was shattered while the egg was completely unscathed. Back in the present, while Duan checks the egg, Ronan wonders if it's really the bird's egg or something else. But despite that, it's a byproduct of a rare fantastical creature, so it might be something that's worth a lot. As he was excited to learn what it was, Duan asked him if it's horse poop, which shattered his expectations, and he replies that it's not poop. Unable to identify what it is, Do-won gives back the egg, saying it's an unusual object, so he should get this appraised by a specialist. Ronan then decides not to sell it or throw it away, as he's curious about it. He then asks Do-won if he sells books about Filian Academy, as they will be taking the entrance exam, but don't know much about it. Hearing this, Do-won informs him that they are lucky, as his daughter is also taking the entrance exam at Filian Academy, so she might be able to help them. As they were conversing, his daughter appeared, whom he introduced as his only child, Maria. Hearing this name, Ronan quickly remembers something. Do-won then tells Maria to say hello to them, as they are important people with whom he has just done a big deal, to which she replies why she has to, as they look like babies. Do-won then scolds her, telling her to quickly apologize, but Asel assures him that it's all right. Then suddenly Ronan approaches her and questions if she is really Maria, who uses the middle name Sen, to which she replies affirmatively. This confuses Ronan as the person he knows is a guy. He then tells her to lend her ear as he wants to ask her something in private, to which she agrees. Then Ronan asks, does she perhaps have a penis? Hearing this, she becomes confused as to what nonsense he is talking about, but she quickly realizes what he meant and becomes angry, slapping him in the face. The sensation of this slap felt familiar to Ronan, and he realizes that it's certainly the person he knew in his past life, Count Maria Sen. When he was a disciplinary soldier in a place called Armarlin, Maria was in charge of the supplies there. He was an impressive person with a great work ethic and an easygoing personality who could get along with anyone without hesitation. But when talks about penises occurred among the guys, Maria got unusually angry and had an unusual habit of slapping people, which made Ronan curious about why he does that. So he wanted to ask what the reason was when he met Maria again, but he never got the opportunity since he died before Ronan. But now he had found the answer to his question, which is that Count Maria is a girl. Seeing him laugh, Maria decided to give him another slap, but got smacked on the head by Ronan, who tells her to stop acting up because he let her slap him once, which he did because he was in the wrong. Angry, Maria gives Ronan a headbutt in the chin, resulting in both of them starting a fight while Asel and Do-won rush to stop them. Later, Asel wonders how these two, who were fighting each other like crazy, are now getting along. Both of them are checking the loot from Calibaro, which includes 3 swords and 1 magical wand. She then questions why he had 3 swords, to which he replies that he uses swords roughly. He inquires about their quality, to which she informs him that after appraising them, she learned that they aren't bad, but the black iron sword is the best, as the black iron is quite sturdy. So it's an item that renowned knights often seek, and no matter how roughly he uses it, it probably won't break. Ronan then remembers that black iron was his favorite weapon in his past life. Maria appraised the wand, which has a magic stone embedded in it, so it was best for Asel. She then asks her magic type, to which Asel timidly replies that it's telekinesis magic. Impressed, Maria informs her that it's a rare type of magic, and if she were to do well, she might be able to get a scholarship. She then turns to Ronan and asks what technique he will show the professor in the practical exam. This confuses him, as he is unaware of it, so Maria informs him that there's a practical exam where he needs to impress the professor by showing his technique. Although the theory exam is quite difficult, it's not as difficult as the practical exam, to the point where it's said that if one did well in the practical, they'll pass the entrance exam. In other words, if he isn't able to prove his worth, it would be impossible for him to attend the academy. Ronan then inquires what people usually demonstrate, to which she informs him that most nobles show their family's secret technique, while most martial artists demonstrate their personal mana fighting technique. Hearing this, Ronan questions how kids who use swords can also use mana even though they aren't mages. She informs him that if it's a prospective Filian student, being able to do that is a given, as one would have consistently sensed their mana, and with that, they'd use it in combat. This is the basic of the basics. But seeing Ronan's dumbfounded expression, Maria fears that he doesn't know how to sense his own mana. Ronan then asks, isn't mana and aura similar to use? Hearing this, Maria is shocked and wonders how a guy like him is even thinking about attending the Filian Academy. She then stood up and tells him to follow her outside, and she also borrowed 2 short swords, saying that she had left her sword in the blacksmith's. This annoys him, as what if she were to damage the swords, to which she tells him not to worry, as she'll pay 3-fold if that were to happen. Later she explains that mana is the root source of the power of nature, like air. It's a natural energy that exists everywhere in the world. However, that doesn't mean anyone can just use it. In order to use mana, one has to see and feel their own mana and be able to use mana sense. It usually takes a year of training for one to start sensing mana, and the Filian Academy students have surpassed that stage. So after refining their own mana technique, they apply to Filian Academy. As Ronan can't sense mana, it'll be hard for him to attend the academy. And although he is right that aura is one type of mana, the differences between them are like the sky and the earth. Even those whose talent has been acknowledged and trained for a minimum of 10 years with blood-curdling effort can barely obtain enlightened innate power. That's aura. Learning this, Ronan recalls that in his past life, he had met 2 people on the battlefield who bragged about being aura users and used unusual powers. Although they were annoying, he is surprised to find out that they were that amazing. But regardless, in the end, they both died at his hands. Maria then suggests that they should get started, as he will be able to learn faster using his body instead of his head. Then, in the blink of an eye, she swiftly closed the distance between them to attack him, which he barely managed to dodge. Then he uses his strength to quickly push her away, as he didn't expect her to be that powerful despite being so young. Although he couldn't see her coming, he is sure that it's a type of mana fighting style. Meanwhile, Maria is also shocked, as she was planning to finish him in one go so she could show him the power of mana and make him give up on the test. Because she thought that this would be better than facing humiliation at the testing area. But instead, she is the one who is getting pushed back. This makes her wonder if she is really fighting someone who can't sense mana. Ronan then asks her what she is thinking about and pushes away her sword again. He then prepares to land a deadly attack, so he advises her to try to dodge it instead of blocking, which she barely manages to do and quickly backs away. She then acknowledges that something bad would have happened if she hadn't dodged that attack. Ronan praises her for her sword and mana talent. He then starts to leave and adds that if she were to fix her center of gravity, she'll improve a lot. Seeing Ronan leave, she says that he hasn't won just because of this, to which he replies that she has to keep her word on repaying threefold as the sword is damaged. This shocks her immensely, and she wonders how it happened. Then, Asel calls out to her from behind, while cheering her up and saying good job, and then she leaves quickly, leaving Maria wondering about their identity. In the morning, Ronan had come to get his money, but he didn't expect to receive the Filian Academy theory exam workbooks and summaries that Maria had made. She had given them this, considering that they will need it as there's only 1 month left until the exam. Ronan is surprised and questions why she is going that far for them, or is it because she is planning on screwing them over, to which she replies that she has taken a liking to them. She is providing this service so they can all pass together, and although she was planning to teach him personally, because of her work, she needs to head out now. So she tells him to study hard by himself, and if he were to fail even after all this, she won't let it slide, which Ronan happily accepts. Later, Maria left while saying that they'll meet again at the capital on the day of the exam, and Ronan should make sure to read through all those books. As Asel says her goodbyes, Ronan realizes that this body is too weak, so he needs to start training. He also needs to study, which he is bad at, but it's not that bad of a feeling. After parting ways with Asel, he returned home. Although his life was similar to what it usually is, things have changed slightly, as he ate together with Iril to the point where his stomach was nearly bursting after every meal. Filled with all those calories, he hunted monsters on the outskirts of the village and started to increase his stamina and adaptability. He hunted monsters to the point where there were no more left around the village. Besides all of that, he studied, which is unimaginable for a disciplinary soldier. But despite not knowing the outcome, he did his best. After a month had passed, he finally arrived at Filian Academy. While Asel admires Filian Academy, Ronan tells her to stop acting like a country bumpkin and get going, as they'll be late for the exam. Asel was fascinated, as it's been just 1 month, but Ronan has grown bigger. He then gives her a smack on the head, telling her to stop talking nonsense and go inside. He then recalls that he might come across Sword Saint Schlieffen, a descendant of Grancia, a prestigious sword family. Schlieffen is a genius who is considered to be the strongest in the empire. Considering that they are the same age, Ronan wonders if they will meet each other at the exam. Asel then asks Ronan if he has the feather from the dream bird they saved that time, which is supposed to lead them to its owner. He confirms that he does, and as he takes out the feather, It instantly starts to point in the direction of the academy building's highest floor. Meanwhile, the bird's owner wonders if he should go back to being a researcher, as he doesn't like being a professor. The bluebird then cheers him up. This lion-type were human is the bird's owner, Varan Fanashir, who is also a zoology professor at Felian Academy. As he is expecting Ronan to appear today, he decided to open the window for some ventilation, as it'll be troublesome later on. As he opens the window, Ronan's menacingly scary face pops up, which startles both Varan and the bird to the point where they start screaming. He then inquires about their identity and how they came through the window, as it's on the top floor. Fearing that they might be after his bird, he quickly holds it tightly. Ronan then takes out the feather and shows it to him. Seeing this, Varan quickly realizes that they are the guys who saved his bird. Later, he apologizes for his behavior, to which Ronan replies that it's fine as it's Acel's fault, since it was her idea to enter through the window. As Acel was about to deny this accusation, saying it was his idea to use telekinesis because the stairs are annoying, Ronan shuts her down and says that he didn't expect a rare were-human type to be the owner of the bird and also a professor at Felian Academy. Varan then replies that he also didn't expect them to be entrance applicants. As if he had known this earlier, he would have prepared a recommendation, but the exam is today. Ronan tells him not to worry about that, and since he is here, he wants to ask him something. So he takes out the bluebird's egg and shows it to Varan, which shocks him, and he informs that although it's a dream bird's egg, it's unknown what's going to hatch from it. Confused, Ronan asks if it's a bird egg, then shouldn't a bird be hatched from it? Varan informs him that a dream bird is different, as depending on the environment surrounding it, the dream bird will absorb unique mana and lay an egg. For example, if it were to lay an egg in an area of lava, a phoenix wrapped in flames would hatch from it. On the other hand, if it lays an egg in a monster nest, it will take on the appearance of a monster, and so on. There are circumstances where it won't even take the form of a bird at all. He then analyzes the mana coming out of the egg to predict what appearance it will take, and as he does so, he sees that a myriad of mana, like smelting molten metal, is going rampant in the egg. So as of right now, it's difficult to say with certainty what will hatch from the egg. Therefore, he requests Ronan to look after this egg, to which he agrees but questions whether it will be okay with him, as it's really precious to him. Varan replies that it is really precious, as the dream bird only lays one egg in its lifetime. But the fact that it laid its egg in front of its savior means that the bird felt something special, so he wants to respect its wish. Ronan then accepts the egg, as he is also curious to see what comes out of it. As it's almost time for the exam, and now that his work here is done, Ronan decides to leave, but Varan stops them, as he has something to give them to show his gratitude. So he gives them something that will help them with hatching the egg. A while later, Ronan arrives at the practical testing hall, which is a waiting area for many martial arts applicants. Then the exam supervisor calls out to applicant number 112 to enter the exam hall. As Ronan was waiting for his turn and wondering how long it would take, he asked Maria why she is wearing something so uncomfortable. She replied that Filion is a private academy where many high-ranking nobles attend, so she can't look shabby, as they might become a precious customer in her mercenary later. While they were talking about Acel and how she's not here due to the magic testing hall being somewhere else, the exam supervisor called out to applicant 113, which is Ronan. As he prepares to enter the hall, Maria tells him not to be nervous and to do his best, as if he fails, she won't leave him alone. Ronan thanks her for her heartfelt support and tells her to wait until he returns. Upon entering the exam hall, he notices 5 people sitting in front of him, whom he quickly recognizes as Filion Academy's professors. As he analyzes them, he learns that all of them are extraordinary. But the strongest among them is the old man in the middle, whose name is Krava Kratir. He is an archmage, who is also the headmaster of the academy. The other one is a woman with quite overwhelming vigor, which even he rarely felt in his past life. She is the swordsmanship instructor, Grand Sword Saint Nabiros. As Ronan greets them, the headmaster, Krava, introduces himself and explains that he just has to demonstrate his technique on a magically engineered dummy. As it's nothing special, Ronan decides to use a fast-cut method. Then one of the theory class professors calls him foolish for thinking that he can destroy the dummy without using mana. Even though it looks like that, it has the defense ability to withstand aura, and it also has fast regeneration. It's a product of precise magical engineering, and even the genius Schlieffen barely left a trace of his sword. Then both theory professors started making fun of Ronan, loudly enough for the headmaster to clearly hear. But he wondered what would happen if the child were to prove them wrong. As he shifted his attention to Ronan, he was shocked to see the vigor the boy possessed at such a young age. Ronan then employed a fast-cut method to strike at the dummy's neck, which surprised Professor Nabarose. The other professors who were mocking him asked for the opinion of the headmaster, who was in a state of shock. Then suddenly, Professor Nabarose stood up and rushed to attack Ronan, but stopped while placing her sword close to his neck. She questioned him about where he had learned this swordsmanship. This confused Ronan as to what she was talking about. She then decided to change her question and ask if he had seen her movements, to which he replied that he did, and it was amazing. As in that instant, it should have been difficult for her to unsheath her sword, yet she swung it 3 times. She replied that it was indeed 3 times, just like he did. He purposely slowed down the last cut, just in case the professor didn't notice it, like he was being considerate of them. She completely misunderstood Ronan's intention, as he had only adjusted his strength because his sword wouldn't be able to withstand the last cut. Judging by the mood, it didn't seem like she would accept that as an answer. She then sheathed her sword and decided to return to her seat. But before going there, she told Ronan that she would definitely teach him herself. Hearing this, the headmaster quickly realized that she had already claimed this student as her disciple, so he decided to pay more attention. He then praised Ronan for his demonstration and informed him that they would end the test with some common questions, and he could choose to reply with whatever he wanted. The first question the headmaster asked Ronan was what he wanted to learn for him to come to Philian Academy. After giving it some thought and remembering his past life, Ronan answered that the first thing he wanted to learn is not to have any regrets. This answer shocked the headmaster, and he decided to end the exam. After Ronan had left, the headmaster thought about his answer about not having any regrets and found it troublesome, wondering how he was going to teach Ronan that. This confused the theory professor, so he questioned what trick Ronan had used for both Professor Nabarose and the headmaster, wanting to teach him. The headmaster replied that it's more of a talent than a trick, and the moment he said that, the magical dummy's head fell from its shoulders, which shocked the theory professor greatly. Meanwhile, after seeing Professor Nabarose's swordsmanship, Ronan realized that even if he were his past self, it would be very difficult to win against her, which means that he has a long way to go. So he plans to learn a lot from the academy. The last test is theory, which he had been memorizing for a month, so it should be really easy for him, or so he thought, as it went really bad because he wasn't able to give half of the answers. Marya then asks Acel how it happened, to which she informs her that Ronan kept the book he needed for study in a bag, and after being hyper-focused on training, he completely forgot about his bag. Acel thinks that it's her fault for not reminding him, while Marya questions if a fool like him even exists. She then cheers him up, saying that the practical test weighs more than theory. As they were conversing, the list of people who passed is displayed. Acel ranked 12th in practical and 1st in theory, while Marya ranked 9th in both practical and theory. Unable to believe that they really passed, both of them stared at each other for a while, then broke the silence by hugging each other and celebrating. Marya then praises Acel for getting 1st on theory, while Ronan looks like a dead, lifeless corpse, as he wasn't able to find his name on the board. Marya tells him to stop joking and look carefully, to which he replies that he had read all the names, and his wasn't on it. As they were arguing, a huge explosion occurred behind them. Marya informs him that it's the last cannon fire for each department's salutatorian, a glory phoenix. The phoenix then throws a fireball at Ronan, which causes a huge explosion. But it didn't harm him. Instead, it shows that he had gotten 5,712th in theory and 1st in practical, which makes him salutatorian. Then both Acel and Marya hugged Ronan in happiness, as he had passed. Then suddenly Ronan remembers that if he had come 1st, that means Schlieffen came 2nd. And with his personality, he won't accept it, as he can't stand anyone being better than him at swordsmanship. Then suddenly, Schlieffen calls out to Ronan from behind, inquiring if he is the one who ranked 1st in the practical. In response, Ronan acted bluntly, saying that he doesn't know what he is talking about. Schlieffen refuses to believe him and tells him not to lie. Ronan replies that he doesn't have any proof, so he should walk away without fighting. Then suddenly, Schlieffen attacked Ronan with his sword, saying that this much proof is enough, As if he weren't a first rank, he wouldn't have been able to react that quickly and block his attack. He then challenged Ronan into a duel, telling him to show the skills that bested him. With no way out, Ronan decided to accept his challenge. So he attacked Schlieffen by throwing some simple slashes at him, which Schlieffen was able to block, but they were strong enough to cause his hand to tremble. Still, he didn't give up and attacked Ronan again, telling him to show everything he is hiding, as Schlieffen had already figured out that Ronan went easy on him, so he can't accept it. On the other hand, Ronan is annoyed at his idiocy and has figured out that Schlieffen was going to start using aura, which would become very dangerous, as Schlieffen's aura, called Tempest, is an outrageous aura that Ronan can't handle in his current state. So he came up with a plan and rushed at Estelle. Then he hides behind her, which made Schlieffen angry, saying how dare he call himself a knight while using a lady as a shield. But Estelle claimed to be a guy, while Ronan confirmed that Schlieffen's weakness is the same as before, which is that he always protects the knight's honor. He then punched Schlieffen, and as he was distracted due to feeling dizzy, Ronan took the opportunity to run while holding both Estelle and Maria. Then the teacher arrives at the scene and notices Schlieffen's injured face. He inquires about who did it, and whether he should call the knights to deal with it. However, Schlieffen tells the teacher to speak informally, as in the academy he is not the duke's son, but an applicant with commoner status. He also assures the teacher that there's no need to worry about his injury, as it was a fair fight, and he will take care of it himself. Then, Schlieffen notices a crack in his sword, which leaves him confused because it's a sword made from the highest grade of mithril. He realizes that the attacks he received from Ronan weren't normal. This piques his interest, and he decides to remember Ronan's name. As they were wandering around the Shimo forest following a map, Estelle asked Ronan if they'd be okay. Confused, he asks her what she is talking about, to which she replies that she is talking about the fight between him and Schlieffen, who is the heir of the Grancia ducal family, which is the next great family after the imperial family. During the fight, he broke Schlieffen's nose, so she is concerned about what would happen if Schlieffen were to retaliate. Ronan tells her not to worry, as despite being crazy about the sword, Schlieffen is a nice guy who upholds his principles and trust, making him the role model of everyone who protects the weak. Thus, he is considered to be the epitome of a perfect noble, so he'd probably say that what happened yesterday was a fair spar, and if it wasn't for that, they would have already been behind bars. As Estelle is assured, Ronan tells her to keep that matter aside, as they finally found the place that Professor Varon told them about, the Fernando Spring, which contains a mana vein. Mana that hovers around the world for an unknown reason and gathers in a single spot, which forms a puddle called the mana vein. With its existence, mana would be absorbed by its surrounding matter, which turns a regular rock into the highest grade of mana stone, and a regular weed into a miraculous medicinal herb known for its great effectiveness. Considering its astronomical value, most people would want to monopolize it. So it's quite generous of Professor Varon to give them something like this just to hatch an egg. He then asks Estelle her thoughts about this place, and if it feels any different. To which she replies that it's her first time sensing this much mana concentrated in one place, which means she can perform magic stronger than usual. She then notices the egg in Ronan's pocket, and informs him that, although it happened before, this time it's absorbing mana at an incredible speed, which might be because it likes this mana. Although Ronan understands what she is talking about, he can't see the mana himself. As Estelle was saying how Maria would have loved to come with them, but wasn't able to due to being busy with the merchantry, she suddenly noticed something and asked Ronan if he finds it strange, as according to Professor Varon, this place is abundant in mana, causing many fantastical species to build their nests here, which means that this place is good even for regular animals. Then why aren't they hearing any kind of animal noise at all? This makes Ronan realize that he was too complacent, as things are really getting out of hand again, which made him question why it only happens to him. As Estelle asked what he is talking about, Ronan tells her to get ready, as he is getting the smell of blood around here, which means that there are some uninvited guests who came before them, and by guests, he is talking about the guys who are hiding behind the trees while pointing arrows at them. They then shoot the arrows, which are infused with mana, and heading in their direction. However, Ronan easily blocks all the arrows with just a single slash. He then notices a falling arrowhead, and quickly recognizes it. Prior to his regression, when he was a disciplinary soldier and was camping with his comrades, one of them was holding an arrow and was boasting about how it can even blow up an orc's head. Annoyed, Ronan questions why someone who got caught poaching with that arrow is still boasting about it, to which the guy argues that despite his failure, this arrow belongs to those who used it over 100 times and were successful in poaching, making them an elite of the Caliaboro's organization, and they are called bloodhounds. Recalling this past event, Ronan figures out that the enemies are Caliaboro's bloodhounds. As it will be dangerous, he instructs Acel to hide somewhere while he deals with them. The guys from Caliaboro's are shocked to see Ronan easily blocking mana-infused arrows in one slash. Then suddenly, one guy sees Ronan rushing towards them, so he quickly instructs everyone to disperse so they can surround him and attack. Seeing the guy's quick decision-making, Ronan realizes that they are different from the ones he met in Goblin's Lair. As things aren't going favorably, he comes up with a plan and tells everyone to stop their attack and lies that he is their allies. Confused, the guy inquires about his identity, to which he lies by introducing himself as a Haiute, the youngest bloodhound from the Damas branch. The guys refuse to believe that someone so young is a bloodhound, so they suspect him to be from a low-level affiliation. Ronan tells the guy to ask the captain from their branch to confirm his identity. He then mocks the guy by saying that assuming others can't do what you can't do is a bad habit. He also calls the guy a feral dog and pathetic. This angers the guy so much that he grabs Ronan by the collar while placing a knife near his neck and threatening to cut off his limbs. But Ronan keeps on mocking him, saying that people like him always have bad endings. As the guy gets more angry, another guy stops him, saying that they should not judge him just because he is young, and considering that he knows and talks about the Caliaboro ranking system that only a member knows. He might be a bloodhound, so they should confirm this with the captain first, as if he is not lying. Harming him could lead to discord between branches. While they were conversing, the captain arrived and asked what was going on. The guy then lets go of Ronan and begins explaining the situation. Seeing that their captain is here, Ronan realizes that all the branch members are in this place. Then the captain calls out to Ronan and asks if what he said is true, to which he replies affirmatively. However, Captain is confused, as this part of the mountain range should have been decided as their territory. Ronan then bluntly replies that he doesn't care, as he is not really a Haiute or from Caliaboro. This makes the guy really angry, but before he could respond, Ronan had already unsheathed his sword, using which he launches a horizontal slash that easily eliminates most of them. He then reveals that he just used the name he hates the most, as it was the best name to use when pretending to be a lowly poacher. Then he rushes at the captain and easily eliminates him, leaving only one guy. Ronan then calls out to him, reminding him of the thing he said earlier about having a bad ending. Then suddenly the guy's finger falls off, which was actually cut by Ronan, but it was so swift that he didn't even realize until it fell off. As the guy screams in pain, Ronan tells him to get a hold of himself and gives him a piece of paper while telling him to write down the locations of all the branches that he knows, and if he were to refuse, he would meet his end here. Scared for his life, the guy agrees. Later, Ronan praises the guy for perfectly drawing the map despite being injured. Scared, the guy thanks him and asks if he can go now, as Ronan had promised to spare his life. However, without replying, Ronan takes out his sword and eliminates him. Later, Acel started to vomit while Ronan told her to stop overreacting, as he warned her earlier, but she is still shocked at how cruel the Caliaboro are to massacre so many animals. That's why Ronan eliminated all the members of Caliaboro that were nearby, as he considers letting them live to be a crime. But Acel is worried, wondering whether they will face consequences. Ronan informs her that all of them are wanted criminals who were needed to be eliminated. Putting that matter aside, Ronan worries that if Professor Varen were to see this, he's going to be quite sad, as there's a bluebird similar to his, or the same one, lying dead. As Ronan was telling Acel that they should head home, suddenly the egg in the pouch started to move. As he was wondering what was causing this, Acel started to tremble and pointed in a certain direction. Upon looking that way, Ronan was shocked as all the blood of the animals started to float. Then suddenly, all the blood combined and started to get close to them. Not knowing what it is, Ronan was about to unsheath his sword, but in the process, the egg slipped from his hands, but it didn't land on the ground. Instead, it started to float and absorb the blood. Terrified, Acel asks what's happening, to which he replies that he doesn't know either. But one thing is sure, that whatever's inside the egg isn't normal. After absorbing all the blood, the egg is still floating. Then, Acel asks if it's the end, to which he replies affirmatively, stating that it hasn't changed much. Suddenly, the egg started to crack, and Ronan quickly realized that the egg is about to hatch, which made him excited, wondering what type of mythical thing is about to hatch from it. Then something quickly came out of the egg and collided with Ronan's face, which broke his nose. But he is more shocked than angry, as no matter how he looks at it, the dream bird looks nothing like a bird. Instead, it looks like a dragon. Acel also agrees, saying that she saw something similar to this in a book in which it is stated to be a dragon. This makes Ronan wonder where on earth the bluebird absorbed mana from to hatch something like this. But he decided not to think too deeply about it, and started to pet the dragon while calling it cute. However, despite its cuteness, he is still angry, as his nose hurts. The dragon seems to have understood Ronan's words as it started to use magic, which healed Ronan's nose in an instant. As Ronan was wondering what had happened, Acel informs him that the dragon is capable of healing magic, and she also added that it is really fond of Ronan, which is evident as it started to rub its face on his cheeks. Then, Acel suggests that they should give it a name, as they can't keep calling it a dragon. Ronan agrees, and as the both of them were starting to come up with a name, the dragon suddenly senses something and quickly dashes in a direction. As Acel worriedly questions where it's going, Ronan is surprised to see that it can even sense the presence of others. Meanwhile, a guy was running towards the opposite direction from where Ronan and Acel were. This particular guy is one of Caliaboro's errand boys who went to run an errand earlier. However, when he returned, he found everyone dead. But what terrified him the most was how a small egg absorbed that sea of blood. While running away, he sensed something behind him, and as he looked back, he saw that the dragon was chasing after him. Terrified, he tried to run fast. However, he tripped over a tree root and fell, causing the dragon to catch up with him. Then it started to absorb blood from the guy's injured knee. As he shouted for help, Ronan arrived and told the dragon to stop while calling it Sita. Acel then questioned if Sita was going to be the dragon's name, to which Ronan replied affirmatively, saying that he already had the name in his mind for a while, so he decided to name the dragon Sita, and it seems to also like the name. While Ronan spoiled Sita, the guy wondered if he is the monster's owner and what his identity is. Ronan then called the guy Balrus and asked if he is all right. Scared, the guy quickly nodded, saying he is fine, and thanked him for saving his life. He then abruptly stopped and asked Ronan how he knew his name. Without replying, Ronan took out his sword and placed it near his neck, telling him that he doesn't need to know. The reason Ronan knows Balrus's identity is because he met him in his past life, and it's the same guy who bragged about the Caliaboro's poaching arrow. As he didn't expect to meet him this soon, Ronan asks if poaching has been good as a Caliaboro's bloodhound. This shocked the guy, and he quickly informed Ronan that he is just an errand boy. Hearing this, Ronan recalls that Balrus's rank was low around this time, but he is still useful. So Ronan tells him that there's something he needs to do for him, and it isn't a favor. Instead, it's an order. Later, Ronan returned to the city with some gold, saying that it's better than he had thought. Acel also agrees with him, mentioning how surprised she was when he collected some water from the Fernando spring and said that this thing will turn into gold. She was initially confused, but quickly realized that the water is genuinely valuable, as Maria's father offered a high price for it. And it's all thanks to Professor Varen, as they don't have to worry about money for a while. Ronan agrees, stating that they are indebted to Professor Varen in many ways. Earlier, he visited Professor Varen's office to thank him while also introducing Sita. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to, as Professor Varen went on a long-term business trip. Leaving that aside, Ronan's trip to the Fernando Spring was more fruitful, as in addition to getting the map of Caliaboro's whereabouts, he was able to meet Balrus, whom he assigned a job and instilled so much fear in him that he wouldn't even think of having any other intention. Acel then asks Ronan what he's planning on doing with the money, as they are scholars who aren't required to pay school fees and instead receive support funding. So there's nothing major to pay for, so he can spend the money on anything he wants. While she makes a valid point, Ronan wonders what he should do. Then for some reason, he remembers that the entrance ceremony date is nearing. A few days later, at Valen City's carriage station, a guy opens a carriage door for someone who turns out to be Ronan's sister, Iril. She is really happy, as it's her first time visiting the capital city, Valon. Then, Ronan appears and greets his sister, asking if anything big happened while he was away. She replies that she should be the one to ask that, as she was really surprised after seeing a high-class carriage in front of their house. She wonders how he was able to afford it, as they don't have that much money. Leaving that matter aside, she grabs his face and worriedly asks if he is eating properly, as he has lost so much weight. Ronan assures her that he is fine and eating proper meals every day. Relieved, she notices Sita and questions who this cute thing is. Ronan introduces Sita and informs her that it started traveling with him due to certain circumstances. More importantly, he tells her to hurry and come with him. As she questions where they are going, Ronan replies that he's going to be busy once he enters the academy, so there are things he'd like to do beforehand. Later, Iril is shocked and tells Ronan that she is aware that he made lots of money, and she also understands that he is more carefree because he got a scholarship. Despite that, the dress he bought is really expensive. Ronan ignores her and asks the shop clerk if all those can be delivered, to which the clerk replies affirmatively. Still worried, Iril asks if it's really necessary to take this many, to which Ronan replies that it's not a lot, as she had gone through much more, so it's about time she gets rewarded. Hearing this, she is touched, wondering when her little brother grew up this much, and as she happily shouts for everyone to look how kind her brother is, Ronan tries to stop her while the shop clerk comments on how good their relationship is. Unable to stand the embarrassment, Ronan tells her that their job here is done, so they should leave, to which she happily agrees and asks where they will be going next. He replies that they'll go to a workshop, as his sword was damaged by a crazy person. As he was saying that while opening the door, Schlieffen was behind the doors and asks Ronan if he's finally done. Suddenly seeing him behind the door, Ronan gets a jump scare and asks Schlieffen why he is coming out from there and if he is stalking him, to which he replies that his sword got damaged due to the duel between them, so he ordered a new sword within the vicinity. He came to get the sword and coincidentally saw Ronan, so he just waited until he came out of the shop. That's why he suggests Ronan to stop his repulsive misunderstanding attitude. Ronan replies that what he just said is the definition of a stalker. Then Ronan unsheathes his sword, saying that his sword wasn't the only one that got damaged. Schlieffen states that he is the one to blame, and as both of them were about to engage in a battle, Iril intervened and started to scold Ronan for using foul language. As he tries to explain that Schlieffen is the one who broke his sword, Iril doesn't listen to him and kept on scolding while Schlieffen is confused and sheathes his sword. As Iril turns around to apologize for her brother's behavior, Schlieffen instantly develops a crush on her and starts blushing. As she kept on apologizing for not disciplining her brother well, Schlieffen started to fluster, saying that this happened because of his own lack of discretion. So it's not her fault, and everything that has happened is his responsibility, so she should rest assured. Hearing that Iril thinks Schlieffen is kind and mistakes him as Ronan's friend, she then thanked him for befriending her brother and requested that he take care of Ronan, to which he agrees and decided to compensate for Ronan's sword. But he doesn't have any gold with him at the moment, so he gives her his family's proof of identification and informs her that she can use this everywhere in the Empire. Not knowing its worth, Iril takes it, while Ronan is immensely shocked and asks him if he is aware of what he is doing by giving her this. Schlieffen ignores him and suggests Iril to go to the blacksmith on the western end of the street if she wants to buy swords, as it's known to be a place that carries a history of 500 years. It's difficult for commoners to enter the shop, but with that, she can easily go there. Then he leaves, saying that he hopes they make her a good sword. Ronan is still in shock, wondering if Schlieffen even knows what he's doing. As with the Grancia family's proof of identification, one can buy many villages. This makes him wonder if it's really the same sword Saint Schlieffen he knows of. The next day at Filian Academy's entrance exam ceremony, where the headmaster greets all freshmen of class 787 and introduces himself as the headmaster of Filian Academy, Krava Kratir, he states that all the students have passed with amazing skills and have proved their potential. He believes that when the students' boundless talent collides with Filian's prestigious education, they will all be recorded in the Empire's history. He then ends the speech by congratulating all the students of class 787 on their entrance. Meanwhile, Ronan is bored and considers the ceremony to be too grand, but he still thinks that events like this happening from time to time aren't so bad, especially since his sister seems to like it. As the ceremony is nearing its end, the headmaster has prepared something special, so he snaps his fingers, causing blue and purple mana to surround the students. While the students were wondering what's going on, they noticed a crack in the sky. Then suddenly, in an instant, the scenery changed to an arena where seniors were welcoming the new students. Ronan is shocked at how the headmaster was able to teleport the whole place with just a snap of his fingers. Then, the headmaster announces this to be the peak of Filian's entrance ceremony, so it's time to begin the meeting between the seniors and juniors. Senior-junior meetings occur between the top freshmen and Year 2 seniors. Due to the location where they meet each other for the first time being an arena, the encounters they have are known to be very intense. The first and second ranks are chosen to represent the freshmen, and they will spar against one of the 4 seniors, each with their own individual fighting style. The headmaster emphasizes that the significance of this event is closely linked to the instructors of Filion, and it goes beyond just the participants. It's about fostering the relationship between seniors and juniors. As they learn about each other's weaknesses, the headmaster believes that complementing and competing against each other is the beginning of true education. Through these educational duels, each year's representative will get to demonstrate their first step. Freshmen are given the choice to select their opponent, and they can also decline a duel if they choose. This ensures that the freshman representatives don't feel burdened by the process. Ronan is annoyed at the headmaster for beating around the bush, as they're basically hazing the freshmen. This is evident as they will be sparring against the top rankers such as Nasdo, ranked 1st, and Braum, ranked 2nd, followed by Irina, ranked 3rd, and Karun, ranked 4th. Ronan decides to take this opportunity to show his sister that he doesn't go around getting beat up. He also plans to demonstrate his great companionship. However, after hearing the headmaster state that they can freely choose their opponent, Ronan comes up with an idea and asks the headmaster for permission to make a suggestion. After receiving permission, Ronan suggests that he duel all 4 seniors at once. This shocks the headmaster, and the seniors also didn't like it. But despite that, Ronan insists on fighting all of them at once. As the suggestion is too bold, the headmaster decides to discuss the situation with the professors. But after a while, the discussion seems to lead nowhere, prompting the headmaster to seek instructor Nabarose's opinion. She replies that they should proceed with Ronan's suggestion, as it's Filion's overarching principle that if one possesses the skill, they are free to do whatever they want. So, no matter who wins the duel, it will hold deep meaning for many. If things were to go wrong, she will interfere. Understanding what she meant, the headmaster decides to proceed with the duel, but the seniors don't like this outcome. Senior Karun thinks it's absurd how severely Ronan is looking down on them, while Irina thinks he is too arrogant just because he ranked 2nd. As both plan to teach Ronan a lesson, Nasdo tells them to calm down, informing them that even if he is arrogant, he can fight on par with Schlieffen, who is definitely skilled. This means that he's an opponent they can't look down on. So, Nasdo suggests that all of them go all out from the start, to which they agree. Meanwhile, Iril was spectating and noticed the chaotic atmosphere. She yells out to Ronan, telling him to be careful and to forfeit right away if things get dangerous. Ronan waves at her to assure her, and as she calms down, the headmaster commences the duel. Just then, in an instant, Nasdo swiftly rushes at him and uses his sword to attack, but he easily dodges it and realizes that they are really sharp and a couple of levels higher than Maria. This means that the 4 strongest sophomores are on another level. While he was lost in thought, Irina attacked him with her dagger, which he easily blocked. However, she doesn't stop. Instead, she keeps slashing at him. Then Karun appears behind Irina and tells her to duck. As she does, he attacks Ronan with his spear, which he also easily blocks. But the impact causes him to be pushed backward, where Braum lifts his greatsword and prepares to attack. But before that, he questions Ronan why he is going easy when he wanted a more ferocious spar with him. Then, he uses a vertical slash attack on Ronan, but he isn't worried at all. Instead, everything is slow in front of him as he analyzes their movements, such as Braum's swift and strong finishing blow and the others' follow-up attacks right after. Ronan realizes that they are at a really high level and have good teamwork. However, it's not enough. He then vanishes in front of their eyes, to the point where Braum's finishing attack doesn't work at all. While Irina is shocked at how fast Ronan is, he appears behind them and swiftly breaks their weapons as they were mid-air. He believes his choice to attend Filion was correct, and just as he thought all of them were defeated, he hears a big thud coming from Braum, who wasn't defeated as his weapon is still intact. As he rushes to attack, Ronan wonders if he should shatter his battle spirit, but he decides to remain considerate until the end. Ronan then also prepares to attack, which shocks Braum as he is familiar with Ronan's stance, which is similar to that of Professor Nabarose. Before Brahm could even react, Ronan swiftly dashes past him and destroys his sword, resulting in their defeat. The whole arena went silent, as none of them could believe what they had just witnessed. But one thing was sure, that the newbie defeated all the top-ranked students, so everyone started to cheer for him. The battle was so one-sided that even Nasdo is not upset about it. Instead, he wonders where that monster could have come from. Now that the duel had ended, Ronan decided to see the reaction of his sister, who was surprised to the point that she grabbed the collar of the guy who was sitting beside her and started to shake him while asking if anyone saw how amazing her brother is. Now that she won't be worried about him getting bullied, there's just one thing left, which is to show his social skills. So, he turns to the seniors and thanks them, expressing how much he learned from dueling them. The reason he acted the way he did earlier is due to the excitement of attending Philion Academy. Nonetheless, their teamwork and strength were unimaginable, which helped him gain insight into many things. So he thanked them from the bottom of his heart for accepting his challenge. Meanwhile, Maria and Acel are shocked, wondering if he ate anything bad for him to act like that, as it's really unbecoming of him. Ronan then continues and apologizes for his rude behavior earlier, and wishes to look forward to receiving more teachings from them. The situation became awkward as they thought him to be arrogant, but he turned out to be humble, so none of them knew how to respond. Then, Brahm breaks the silence by praising Ronan for not only his strength, but also his politeness. He grabs Ronan's hands while telling him not to be humble, as he fought fairly with just his ability and won, which is exactly as a Philion student should be. He announces Ronan as the victor and compliments his strength, which Ronan happily accepts. Now that he has shown his social skills, Iril won't need to worry anymore. Meanwhile, Iril is touched by Ronan's interaction with his seniors and wonders when he grew up so much. Also, she completely ripped apart the clothes of the guy whose collar she was shaking earlier. Meantime, someone was watching Ronan from afar and finds him interesting,